Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to welcome today Joe Bendle to another episode of the Intuition Revolution. And I'd like to ask you, Joe, to introduce yourself to our audience today.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, thank you so much for having me. So I'm a coach and mentor, and I work with women in business who know that they are meant for more. So I help them to stop playing small and identify and claim the more that they desire. And I really specialize in productivity, mindset, and like all the things that I've used on my own journey to create the life that I created. Yeah.
And I'd love to go back to that because you've created a very interesting life. I would love for everyone to know more about that. But first, how long have you been doing what you're doing?
So I started my business 8 years ago. It looks very different now to what it did when I started. It's just been this fabulous journey of trusting that each step and each evolution is going to take me to, where I'm meant to be. And I really started as a virtual assistant. I'd always been like an executive assistant in the corporate life. And so that kind of was the next step for me because I always struggled with self-doubt, and it's kind of evolved from that. From there I was stepped right into productivity coaching, which was something that I did for many years, and then realized, oh my gosh, like every time I'm talking, it's not about the productivity, it's about the mindset. It doesn't matter how many tools they've got if we don't also work on why we're procrastinating. And it's just been this fabulous journey to now really talking about all my favorite things from my own journey with amazing women.
That sounds so good. So you've already answered a bit my question of what led you into it, but I want to really go back to the turning point where you left your corporate job. And did you decide to travel right away, to be location independent right away?
Yeah, as soon as I started my business, I had one big goal, and that was I want to build a business that I can run from anywhere in the world. And for the first couple of years, it was literally just a dream. I didn't have, like, financially, it wasn't possible. It's just like, this is my long-term dream. It felt like this really far away vision. And but because I knew that this is why I'm so passionate about us having a vision, because I knew that, I built my business in a way that eventually, when I did have that opportunity, I wasn't tied to seeing clients in person, or like the business has been built online. And so, that was the power of having it, but it felt like such a long way away. And then, my first goal was, I actually wrote down in this like vision, like this book, was I would love to work for 6 weeks in the Italian lakes. And I still laugh about this because all these years later, and I basically ended up being completely location independent, spent 3 years living out of my suitcase, traveling all over the world, and was like, I never did 6 weeks in the Italian lakes. I did 3 years around the world. So it was just like so funny.
Oh, I see. I was going to ask, did you end up in Italy? No.
Still haven't done it. It's still on the list.
But it was good nevertheless, isn't it? It was
Yeah.
more because your goal was to be traveling to wonderful places. So what was your first destination? I'm curious.
With my business, the first destination was actually Australia. And that trip, that was me being like, right, this is, oh no, I tried it. I tried it for like a month in Sri Lanka. And actually, there was loads around this. So I actually, at the time, was in a relationship, and my partner and I went to Sri Lanka for a month, and I was testing working from anywhere. And it literally became really, really like obvious that, okay, my dream and this guy do not work together. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was a tough time, and I had to like make a decision. And this is that whole thing about sometimes going after your dreams is very, very confronting, and we have to sacrifice things, and you've got to decide, but this for me was like non-negotiable. No, this is what I want. So then we separated, and then I actually sold all my stuff, decided, okay, I sold a lot. I sold almost everything, but then I kept like about 6 boxes or something. It was like, I don't know. They're in my mum's shed. I don't know if it's going to be 3 months or 3 years, mum. This is the situation. Off I went to Australia. I went actually to a retreat business retreat with Denise Duffield Thomas.
Ooh.
That was like 5 or 6 years ago, and probably 5 years ago. And then that was the start. I then basically had 3 months there, went to Bali, went to Thailand, went back to Australia, spent lots of time, and that was it. Then it was just 3 years nonstop all over the place until I decided, I think I'm ready for a home again. Yeah.
So interesting, because I think I probably met you at that time when you started traveling then.
Right.
Because I met you through Tash, and you
Ah,
and a specific podcast episode actually that I am so grateful to you. In fact, you probably don't know how much you have impacted my life, because I remember Tash wanted to do an experiment on how she could run her business 8 hours a week instead of working, and you walked her through that.
yes.
She was visiting a family in New Zealand back then.
That's right.
Do you remember
Yes,
that?
I remember it. Oh,
And as you know, or may not know, I only work 8 hours a week in my business because I homeschool my children, and so it's literally this episode that made me think it's possible. I can actually run a
oh,
business 1 day a week, and a successful and thriving business. And my goal is to be location independent as well, so that we can world school our kids, which would be so lovely. But I want to say that you didn't just reach your dream. You also, I know you're inspiring thousands of women in,
thank
you know,
you.
in that, and I think it's amazing. I want to thank you
That's
for that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is literally what keeps me going every single day. You know, like I'm definitely someone that can get in my own way still, and I can spot the ways that I can play small. But when we remember that, hey, just sharing like stuff we know and the stuff that we're passionate about is helping other people, and that is obviously what we all care about. So
Mm.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's so I remember that so well. That whole experiment is a case study of like how can she like working less, and like because of that, there's so much stuff that comes of it. I was actually just talking this morning to someone about, if you set yourself like if there is something in the diary for in the afternoon or the evening, you're going to get your work done in the morning so that you can do it. If there's something fun in the afternoon, otherwise we just end up working.
And it's not just that. What I've discovered as well, because I thought that homeschooling my kids would kill my business. I'll be
Right.
honest. And
Yeah.
I thought that going online would kill my business as well. But it's the opposite that happened. Not only was I more successful, but at the same time, well, I realized, the Parkinson's law, how the more
Yes.
you give time to a task, the longer it takes. It's so
Yeah.
true.
So true.
And so because I had limited time, I had to be super focused on what was my priority, what was I going to
Yes.
focus my attention on. And it's made me even more productive than I used to be. I thought I was productive, but so that's almost like when I look back, when I see people like agonize over their social media posts for 3 hours in the morning, I'm like, I have 15 minutes. If I
Haven't got
don't do it
time.
in 15 minutes, that's it. And I suppose that's where my intuition comes in, because I can tune into the energy of the group when I post, and I literally let it flow. And so people wonder, how can I record a podcast? How can I run a business, see clients? And I'm launching my group course, all that only 1 day a week. It's because first, I don't procrastinate. Second, I tune into the energy. And yeah, I don't have time to overthink things. And I'm super organized, more and more. And you helped as well. You're one of the first ladies I came across who talked about business planning in a way that felt really fun,
Yes.
like with the visualizing, see yourself on the
Ah,
31st of December this year, that sort of stuff.
yes.
So yeah, and I think I'm so happy, and it's 11:11 here, so that's a special
Oh,
number for
even
me
made.
too.
Love it.
That I want to, yeah, I wanted to thank you in person, so to speak, for
Thank you.
all the things that you do for everyone. And I'm sure that if we had this room filled with all the women, they would be queuing outside and all the way down my drive.
Oh, that's so kind. You know what? I think it's so important that we talk about the fact that you do not have to work all the hours to get to
Yeah.
achieve your dream. In fact, like you said, the less time I've got, the less the less I can procrastinate, the less I can get
Yeah.
in my own way. Like
Yeah.
people will be like, I just don't have time. It's like brilliant, because that means you're going to get on with it. It's like,
Yeah, and they do say, not that I want to discount women who don't have kids, or people who don't have kids, but they do say, if you have a job to do, give it to a busy mum, because she'll
yes,
do it like in no time at
yes.
all.
Definitely.
I think that sometimes having the gift of time is not as much of a gift as we think it
I
is.
agree. And I'm someone that does have time, and that's why I always have to plan fun things so that I then concentrate my work, so that I'm either in work mode like you are. I'm either in work mode or I'm not in work mode, and there's no gray area, there's no guilt about either one because it's clear, but I have to like be conscious about that or be intentional about it.
And I've even learned over time that less is more anyway. So
that's got to be one of the hardest lessons, isn't it?
But it's so hard because, because we have been taught to work hard, and that working hard. I mean, my dad was a surgeon. He worked incredibly long hours. So, that was my model. That was my role model. The more you work, the harder. And as a lawyer, when I started my career in the law firm, you can imagine that I was like, we had 12, 13, 14 hours working days. And I actually almost until I became a mum, that was the norm.
Yeah, we have got this societal belief, haven't we, that like you've got to work hard to be successful, and it's just the one that we're all fighting against constantly. Yeah.
So thank you for being like a shining light in that world, and I hope this episode will inspire a lot of people as well from that perspective, and that we smash that unhelpful belief that hustling is the thing.
Absolutely. It isn't. Definitely. Let's simplify, let's make it easy, and let's enjoy the journey. Yeah.
So I have a very special question that I ask all my guests is, do you consider yourself intuitive?
I would instantly say
right or wrong. There's no right or wrong, exactly.
Yeah, it's so funny. I would say no, and I can see how I have used my intuition in my journey. So obviously it is. It's just I guess I never thought of myself as. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I never thought I was intuitive until someone told me.
Oh, wow.
It's such a natural part of us. So this is the interesting thing, because I've had some guests that I had literally to beg to come on my show. I wonder if you were one of them, because I said to you, I can see you're intuitive. You might not recognize it, but that's because you haven't been taught. Nobody puts an emphasis on intuition. And we're born with it, all of us. It's not like psychic gifts where you have some people who are talented and others don't have it. Everybody has intuition.
Yes. It's such a great conversation to bring, because I think you're right. You'd messaged and invited me, and I'm like, well, I might not be the best person for this, and it's like, no, that's perfect. It's like, that's the conversation. Yeah.
Also it's because I want to bring intuition mainstream in business. That's why you were the perfect person to interview, and all my other guests as well. I'm not interested to interview psychics, also because I have been, and this is no criticism at all, but I have been at the hands of psychics who didn't understand how to teach intuition to people who don't have psychic gifts or who are not interested in them.
Yeah.
So intuition in business, we all know how important it is. We all know that some of the most successful businessmen and women credit their intuition for their success, but no one knows really what it is. So this is a little bit what this podcast is about. And it's also about knowing that you can combine your intelligence with your intuition, and that they're not incompatible. You don't have to make a choice. It doesn't have to be one or the other. They're actually fully integrated without you even knowing it.
I do love this conversation, because also it's, like you can use it against everything. But when if I just use productivity as the example, I'm like, we can't just have the masculine tools. Like giving yourself a planner is not going to change everything. We've also got to look at, like, what are the thoughts that are going on? And it's very similar to this saying, you can have as much strategy, you can have as much business strategy, but that isn't the thing, because it's got to be right for you. It's got to be right for your business. Yeah,
exactly. And I think you followed your intuition because you made some very brave decisions, haven't you?
Yeah.
One in particular.
That made me just shiver then. I'm like, yes.
This month you made a decision that I was like, oh my goodness, I was ready to bow to you. So do you want to share with us what you did? And so how much courage it took?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've had to have so much courage in so many stages of my business. So this month, basically, I closed my free Facebook group, which had like 7,500 people.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years old. I built a lot of relationships in there. It had been, it was a place that people came to be in my energy, and it was a massive decision to close it. But also this was part of, so probably 18 months ago, I closed down my membership, which was this was how I, like, that was my main income stream in my business. And that's what I built over 3 years. And it was successful. I didn't close it because it wasn't working. And that was another big decision. But I think the Facebook group was really the end of that energy, end of that. Yeah.
So was it your intuition that told you to close it despite the fact you were successful? How did it happen? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never realized that's what it was, but I felt, like, I'm trusting the energy around, hey, this Facebook group now feels heavy and it doesn't feel fun and light for me. I don't enjoy going in there. And there are other areas in my business that I absolutely love. I want to be able to give my energy to that. And so that's where it came from, which I guess is intuition,
And you know what? If you don't mind me educating you about intuition as we have this conversation, intuition is always about the heart. People talk about the third eye. It has nothing to do with it. Real intuition comes through the heart. It comes through feelings in your body.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
So it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel fun. That was your intuition telling you this group is not right for me anymore.
Yes. Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. It's so interesting. And like the membership was the same. That again was hard because I felt like I was really letting people down, even though I knew that I'm like, guys, we are all playing small here. And by me stepping up, I'm showing I'm asking you to shine a light on where you're playing small. So it was actually tried to be a real a learning point as well. Knowing that, as we grow and evolve and get different skills and learn different ways of being, that there was a better way for me to work with people. And I had to, like, again, it comes back to like the strategy, like the practical way of doing that would be replace the income with another thing and then close it. And I couldn't do it. I had to energetically let that go to create space to be able to, like, what a journey,
That's huge. That's huge. I admire you so much for that, for
like
following
you
your
said,
heart,
the brave.
following the energy. And this is one thing I said to people: intuition without courage means nothing, because intuition will often ask you to do the things that scares you the most.
You literally just gave me shivers again, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like literally that is my journey, is like having to be brave.
And you thought you weren't intuitive? Isn't that funny?
I love it.
I love it. We had to have this conversation.
I love it
on this podcast, because it's just a misunderstanding of what intuition is or what it isn't, and that's what I'm passionate about. So thank you so much for coming. So now that we've talked a little bit, how do you think you receive your intuition?
I would never have said I would never have put the term how I receive my intuition, but what my process is if I'm feeling uninspired, I guess, or like, like doesn't fit, I'm not feeling, then I always take myself to the beach. I will always, like walk along the beach or get out in nature and not have anything in my ears, but like not listening to anything, and just, not even think, just be like, that's the place I need to go to know that things are going to land. And that's my process. So
I love it. And you know what I love about it as well? You didn't mention meditation.
No.
That's my bugbear. Every single teacher talks about how you need to meditate. No, it's about going to a place that raises your vibe, that makes you feel happy, and where you can switch your intellect, that you can just let go of all those thoughts that are kind of heavy sometimes, and that can buzz in your mind, and you need to be able to switch your mind off. So whatever makes you switch your mind off is what works for you. So beach sounds great to me. Absolutely.
And for me, the beach has got a massive, it's a real symbolism, because going back to the whole wanting to travel, wanting to be location independent, I grew up in the middle of the UK. I didn't live anywhere near a beach, and my vision was that I wanted to be able to walk on the beach every day. And so because I now can, I don't share, like I share pictures of the beach because it is such a symbolism of the journey of like what I made a decision, I made choices, I sacrificed. So it's got so much to it, again, of like why that's the place. this conversation is so good. I think also for me, but for anyone listening, to be around, if we can see ourselves through the eyes of how others see us, it's so different. Like people, like you reflecting back to me, I'm like, oh, okay, so this process is like really supportive. It's not just, hey, that's what I need. But I think whenever I say to someone, oh, I'm not in action, I feel like I've got I went into my group, the lab, my paid program this in January, and I feel like I've got my foot on the brakes. I'm just sharing some stuff, and one of the ladies were like, God, if this is you with your feet on the brakes, I can't imagine what you'd look like with like on full throttle. And it's like, yeah, like we have these stories, but like when we look at how other people see us, if you could start seeing yourself like how others see you, wow, I think we'd all show up, we'd all feel very different. If that makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And sometimes we feel like we're talking in the void, and we don't know what people think of us or how much we inspire them. And then it's also about reflecting, like you never knew you were intuitive, and today you're going to leave this interview feeling completely different about your intuition. And maybe you don't care about it still, I don't know, but intuition, inspiration, creativity are really one and the same thing, to be honest, but it's just the word you put on it. But I actually believe that intuition is going to be the next revolution. If everybody's tuned in to those feelings, honor them, and know how to combine them with their thinking mind, then you're no longer using half of your brain. You're no longer using half of your capacity. You have this. It's like putting a super engine in a car rather than like having a pedal car. It's a bit the difference, I would say.
Amazing. It's so it is a really powerful conversation, because like we're saying about how it feels like, not even like even that is something we have to learn to be able to tune into. Like Absolutely. This feels heavy, or this like, it's taken me a long time to not push through feelings.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely, especially in business.
Yes,
we're not told to follow feelings in business.
Well, we've all got the shoulds, we should do this and we should do that, and I actually that's the thing that needs to be like thrown in the bin. It's like, if it's a should, then it is not coming from this beautiful aligned feeling of, hey, this feels exciting.
And I'm sure you will agree with me that you can be so much more successful if you follow the joy, if you follow the light feeling, if you follow the fun.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's easier, and it all happens easily. And then it's just, if things don't work, we look back and we're like, oh yeah, I was trying to push something that didn't feel right. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that in my business.
Excellent. So can you think of a story of how intuition helped you significant up level in your business? Would you say it's the one that we've already started talking about, or do you have another one that you'd like, that pops in your mind right now, that you'd love to share?
I think it's happening all the time now. The one that I would say was like closing the membership. That was really having to be very brave. And then when I did it, it felt amazing. It felt like a really good decision. It was hard. And because of that, I was then able to, like, I'm in love with my business even more now. So that was a great thing. But so many things, like even now with the meant for more message, which is, I don't know if you've seen any of that. That was an interesting thing. But again, like, we outgrow and we evolve. Like the Live Big had been what was like 4 years old, came to me in Costa Rica when I needed that. And then maybe because I then created my version of living big, I needed the next thing. And so trusting, this is what we need right now, and the right people will need that too if I share it. And so more and more I realize, I'm using it even though I'm not aware of it.
And I love that, because you changed the name of your business, or your message. It's not really changed, but you changed the words that you attach to it, like your brand, because someone asked you to stop using living big. And what I loved is that you actually, of course you took a hit, but then after that it was like, no, this is something important. I need to rethink things. This is like almost like a sign from the universe. That's
Yes.
also how intuition can work.
Right.
Is that it can be the universe kicking you on the back and saying, you haven't made the changes, this is needs to happen, this is
Yeah.
over, and it just hits you.
I think that's exactly what's happened. Is like, first of all, I was like, okay, fine, and I felt like this is an expansion. This is good for me, because every time I try and take my community on the journey with me. So it's like, great, this is good, because if I'm being asked to step up, then you're coming with me. But then of course you kind of shrink and you doubt and stuff. But yes, exactly that. Like the universe was sending me a big message to be like, like there's more. We're all meant for more. It's just like
And
there's
that's actually, your motto now anyway.
it's so funny. It's like, what's the more? Yeah. And the more time I talk to people about this, how much it is people have felt it. Like there really is a going back to that. There's not one way of doing. We don't have to follow any set rule or path. We've got to go on our own journey. And it's that fulfillment thing for me, I think, is you'd usually use intuition. I think before I had this conversation, I would use like this: do I feel fulfilled? And if I don't, then what needs to change? But that was, that was when I make big changes in the business. But with the message and the stepping up, it's like, okay, look, everything's happening for me. I need to go with this. What? Let's go. Yeah.
So
with lots of resistance.
Where's your business? Just before we do that, I love the fact that you shared that first you felt good, because on some level we know that it's meant to be, but then our feelings kick in. We have those big mindset issues. We have a grieving process as well. I'm sure you had a huge grieving process letting go. I had a similar one this time last year, when I was super excited about launching a summit for my Journey of the Slim Soul, which had been a project really dear to my heart for many, many years, but it just didn't fit in my business anymore. And when I made that decision, it's exactly like what you did. I felt so light. I felt so relieved, because it felt like this thing that I was dragging behind me. But there was also that sadness. There's also that letting go, that being able to, because it's still something very dear to me. It hasn't changed.
That's the thing for me, is that living big was a real personal mantra that came to me when, it was something I used for many years. And so it's not just it was a real personal philosophy for a long time. So you're right, the grieving process, but also, what got us here, that served me until now. It's like not, and it's the reason I asked for Live Big. So I'll tell you a bit of story about that, is that I always had this mantra in my business, which was imperfect action is better than no action. And I had it, like printed on a post-it note, because I knew I was getting in my own way. So I kept saying imperfect action. And then I got to a stage when I was in my location independent mode, and I was in Costa Rica, and I can remember sat in this beautiful view, love my business, love my clients. Why do I feel unfulfilled? Okay. Imperfect action no longer drives you. It is no longer a powerful kind of motivator. You need your new next one. So I was like walking on the beach thinking, what's my next imperfect action? And Live Big came. And that was the motivator for me. It was really about, it was much more of an inner journey for me around being confident in my own skin, like trust, like being kind to myself, and all this great stuff about choosing to live big wasn't this big hustle of big goals, but of a way of being. And then I feel like now it's like, okay, that's no longer motivating you because you did that. A lot of that served me to buy my home in Spain and all the things. And now this is the next. So
you've
motivator.
Reached that level, and now you can let it go and embrace something bigger.
And then letting go is another thing, isn't it? So that I feel like January for me was a recalibrating energy, letting go of the Facebook group, like lots of letting go and grieving the Live Big, and being like, okay. So yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? The journey.
I love it. Yeah. I love that you're the embodiment of this whole thing. You didn't know you were, but
I know, right?
I can really see it.
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
So what's your next journey? Where are you going next? I'd love to know.
Well, it really is more of the same, because it's all working. It really works really well. I have a beautiful signature program, the lab, which is, like, it's lights me up so much. It's making an impact. It's working. And so it's just refining and all of that. So my next big project is the book, writing the book.
Oh, how exciting. I love a good book. I love a good
Oh my God, I'm finding it hard to get it out of me. But yeah, I'm writing the book and being like, look, this is really sharing the journey of we can create amazing lives. We can create what we desire. And it is going to be a bit of a painful process. There is going to be a bumpy road, because I want to normalize the fact that it's okay if we've got self-doubt, or like my whole journey has been like, yeah, lots of self-doubt, lots of bumpy roads and things that didn't work. And I want to normalize the fact that this is how we create something incredible. So yeah, and the movement, stepping into this meant for more movement, like more women saying, yeah, actually, I know life is good, but there's something else for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely meant for more. I know that.
Yeah. It feels so great, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm sure it's going to resonate with so many women that have kept themselves small. So
yes,
great mantra.
Yeah. Let's see where it takes us.
So what's the lab? Tell me a bit more, because I thought you let go of your membership. So is the lab something slightly different?
Yeah, so the lab is like, it's more like a mastermind group coaching program. It's a 90 days, get in there for 90 days. And we focus on the it's not the Live Big framework now, it's the Meant for More framework, which is vision. So like being really clear, like what do we want? What is that North Star guiding us? Because really that's what I needed to keep showing up. Mindset, constantly working on the mindset. That's an ongoing journey for us all. And then the action, so vision, mindset, action. So action is still bringing in the productivity tools, like what kind of habits, simple processes for us to show up and support us on the journey. And so it's really all based around that, but very much about having a community of high vibe women who are on that journey. And being like, every time we set ourselves a focus or a goal, it's going to be confronting, it's going to trigger us, it's going to bring up all the things. Excellent, let's have that conversation so that we can move through it and then step up. That's really what it's about. So stop playing small, stepping up, going after your more, whatever that is, but in this gorgeous energy of women who get it.
Oh gosh, what a gorgeous community.
And it's so amazing.
It's not that I want to mention this online, but no, what do you say in English? I'm French, so sometimes I don't find my words in English. But I would love to come and teach you ladies about intuition, because intuition is so good to get that clarity on that vision. But yeah, we'll talk about it this offline when we're finished with this interview. It's so good. It's so good. Where can people find you then? What's your favorite places to hang out?
I think my favorite place now is Instagram. So I find it easier to show up on there. So that's Joe_Bendle. Also my website, joebendle.com. Those are, the places that I really am like taking my people on the journey is via my newsletter and on Instagram. Like if you want to share, if you want to see how I'm navigating, life and business, then I do that on Instagram. If you want to get my, like just sharing the journey, I'm very, very open and share the ups and the downs, because I really I feel like that's a teaching point for us all. I'm just calling us all forward, we are all meant for more, and it's okay to want more. We don't need to feel bad about that. And having those conversations that, hey, when good things happen, I feel more, I feel bad, just such great conversations as we're moving away from calling ourselves out from playing small, stepping up. What does that look like without the hustle?
And what I'm hearing as well as you're saying is that a lot of people think, oh, she's lucky, she's made it, but they don't see that it takes so much courage, and that there's some grieving, as we discussed already today, that you have to let go, you have to focus. That means being sometimes almost a bit ruthless with yourself and with what you're doing, so that you keep your focus. And I think in business, that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, because I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur, and I just had a good cut out until I focus exclusively on intuition. I want to be known as the business intuition guru.
Love it. Yes.
But I still have the things in the background, because just like you, I have a framework. It's called the EPIC framework. I is for intuition, but there's also the mindset, because if you don't have mindset with intuition, you're not going to follow it. So I think we're actually a lot
Yes.
on the same plane, on the same
Yes.
kind of on the same
And
vibe.
this has all come from trial and error, hasn't it? This is what we've both learned on our journey of like what works and what doesn't work. This is why I always say, like, these frameworks are not just bunches of theory. It's
No.
basically been tried and battle tested. And it's
Yeah,
like this, you know, like
absolutely.
on repeat, we need to be like one of these things. And that's, you know, like that's important. These are not just things we've picked up. They're like, this is what works for us. This is what has worked. It's tested and tested, and from all my people as well. And yeah, I love it. Very aligned. Yeah.
And it's funny, I love what you said as well, because my epic framework only surfaced about like sort of last year, but it's been the fruit of working for years with people, and then recognizing that, for example, in the epic there's energy, because energy and intuition are intimately linked. You've been talking about energy for this whole podcast, thinking it wasn't intuition. So you're almost also confirming what I've always known. And the prosperity manifesting is super important with intuition, because we're not the passive receiver of intuition. We have to be clear on what we want, and then our intuition is like a sat nav that you switch on, that will show you the way that will probably look completely nonsensical. It'll probably say, oh, why am I doing this? Nobody's doing this to get there. It doesn't look like what it's supposed to. And that's because we're pioneers. You know, the real pioneers need to have their intuition switched on to the, you know, and their trust in their intuition, so that they can navigate outside of the road most traveled. And I admire that in you, because that's what you've done.
Thank you.
Ahead of a lot of people who might now want to follow your examples.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing having that reflected back as well, of like, yeah, like that's what you're doing. And obviously we don't always know that we are, you know, we don't know. It's just, but we're naturally following something. Yeah.
But I like also that you do it with such humility and such like lightness. Like, you're not like one of those heavy, you know, this happened to me and this happened to me. And I'm like, oh no, on the contrary, you want to have fun. You want, you know, you're lighthearted. And intuition is also very linked to high vibe, to having that fun. And for me, although I do like meditation occasionally, that's not the vibe that gets me into my intuition. For me, it's dancing. I put a tune in the morning, and everybody, I do a boogie on a song, and the more, you know, the more like almost club-like, the better it is for me. And then I'm just on fire after that. So
I use music a lot as well.
Good.
Good. Yeah, really, really shifts my energy. Like anytime I'm going to do something that I'm like, okay, I need to bring, you know, I want to bring my best energy to this. On goes the song, This Girl Is on Fire, and off we go.
Oh, excellent. So my last question for you is, again, a question I ask all my guests is, what would you say to someone who's afraid to use their intuition in business?
Probably that you're already using it. And like, I feel like this conversation has just highlighted that people are already using it. You can trust yourself, or you can't go wrong. Like, that's the thing, is that you can't go wrong, because whatever has landed in your mind is there for a reason, because it's going to take you to the next step. Because I think about my own journey. I knew when I started as a VA that wasn't my long-term business, but I knew it was a stepping stone. So it's just, it's trusting that you can't go wrong. It is all taking you to where you're meant to go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We're always in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then that we don't have to figure it out all ahead of time. All we need to do, and this is what I say to people when I teach them intuition, is that intuition is like a sat nav, but if you don't move your car, you're never going to get anywhere. So where you are, you just need to get emotion. And if it doesn't matter if you go in the opposite direction, because the universe is going to redirect you. And show you where to go. So that's moving, action, being.
That's it. That's how I feel about action. I mean, literally, like, action it will give you clarity and confidence. It will course correct you. It's so powerful. We've got to get ourselves into that. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for coming today. All the information to contact you will be in the show notes when I launch the show. And no, I cannot thank you enough for this conversation. It's really made my day.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. We will.
And thank you everyone for listening. Bye for now.